What was that?
No, I'm talking Ray. Did you make sure that Facebook and everything is connected now?
Everything's connected. We're going through Facebook, Twitch right now, and my YouTube got locked up. That's a whole another story. But we're here. We're live again. Take two, Sebastian Bonet, right? Or you say Bonnet? Which one do you prefer?
Don't you say Bonnet, then you owe me a drink. No, Bonet. You got it right. You got it right.
Right. So, just gonna play the intro real quick. We're in Bronx now. Coming on live. We got Micheal Grassia. Repulsive picture of myself there. It's like, let's there we go.
How you guys doing this fine Saturday?
How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. Doing good. I feel like this is a little deja vu for me, but
so we're here with Sebastian. Sebastian's awesome, nerds of the round. I mean, he's a comic creator. He's a writer. He does it all. He does comic conventions. I mean, great.
I wear many hats. I'm just a jack of all trade. I'm just a big fan of everybody. That's all. That's all it is. Love you guys. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. You're welcome, man. So, I wanted to ask you, like, we were just talking about, like, how did you get into comics? Like, what was your first love for it?
My first love for comics was an X-Men What If that I had picked up in my cousins, which was very crazy. It was like, what if it was like a dystopian future, one of their dystopian future storylines.
Yeah.
And then I just remember Hulk was under the control of someone and just like started smashing She-Hulk, so they had like the Avengers in it. It was a very crazy lineup, and I was like, oh, I love the artwork. So I got it. So it was just for a long time I was just drawing my own characters since like kindergarten and everything. From there.
Did you have that Hulk coloring book with the little slider in the back with he's in a cage and then he's not in a cage and then he's did you have
No, I didn't have that, but I was that kid that would go to art class and take all the paper and pretty much like staple it up and make my own comics that way, and it's like to unfold it like that. That's what it was for me.
That is so cool. That is cool.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in the Bronx, we didn't really have a comic shop near me, so I was just like, how can I find these? And then
it's true.
I would just take them from my cousin.
It's true. Grassia, you're up.
So a little bit about me. I got into comics. I don't know. It was something I was attracted to. I grew up more on newspaper strips a little bit, and on weekends when I'd go visit my family in Brooklyn, like my parents' parents, and my aunts and uncles. My dad's brother, my Uncle Joe, was a big.
You have an echo. I think you're in another room. You have to turn something off.
Oh, it's probably my fan. Give me 1 second. I'm just looking back at my head.
He's in another dimension.
I'll do this. Don't worry. I was trying not to have the suction cup going on.
I'm loving the headset, Mike. I love it.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah. Go for it. I have mine, but it was giving me a headache, so I'm going to leave it.
All right, I'm back. Now you can hear me.
There you go.
So yeah, I'd go to Brooklyn on the weekends, and I moved my camera so my green screen is working now. Come on, there we go. So I'd go to Brooklyn, and my Uncle Joe was a big fan of reading comics, and we'd sit and read comics, and I always liked to draw, to bring art supplies, and he was an amazing artist. If he probably should have pursued a career in there. And I got into, and I was really more of a strip guy. And, back then, early 80s, you'd go on a Sunday and, Channel 11 would be showing like the old Tarzan movies and things. So we'd sit, watch that. So I got into all that type of stuff. And my dad was a fan of like Zorro and the Lone Ranger. And I grew up, liking those type of things. I'm a big Zorro fan.
Right.
And
same here.
And when I went to, and then, I'd say mid 80s, like around 86, 87, I was at my cousin's house on my mom's side, and he collected comics, and he's only a couple of years older than me, so I was over there, and he had a bunch of comics. And one of the stories he had was Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I started reading that because I knew the characters from like the Saturday morning Super Friends cartoons and things. So I'm like, wow, this is nothing like the cartoons I remember watching. So I read Crisis, and Ray decided to leave us. You don't want to hear anything? Fine. But no, I read Crisis, and I really enjoyed it. And that got me into collecting. I started collecting in 1989. And that's how it happened for me. But I was drawing my whole life. That's all I did, as long as I can hold a pencil.
What was some of your favorite stories?
Looks like I just jumped out.
Yeah, you didn't want to hear my story, so I was
like, what happened? It just cut off.
Listen, today's been a technical hiccup, man. This is. Yeah. I hope you don't have Optimum, Ray.
Oh my god, that was hilarious. I was just like, where'd they go? Good.
So you said Altice cable.
Yeah, for real. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So when you guys write, and I'll hit Sebastian with this first, and then Michael. Yeah. What are the things that like really get you to write, that inspires you to write when you're writing your stories? Like, what's that one thing that really like gives you that like itch to like, I need to do this? Like, Sebastian, you could go first.
Oh, okay. I go.
Yeah, you.
Originally, like for me, I wanted to draw for Marvel and DC at one point and just draw the characters I saw, but then I didn't start getting into the writing aspect when I was like, I started creating my own characters and wanted to see more stories. Like I wanted to tell my own stories and stuff that I wanted to read. Mm-hmm. I guess some of it too is like, I didn't see many diverse characters in that, growing up. Mm-hmm. It was like, and I loved all the characters I saw, but I was like, I want to see different stories, different takes. And then also too, I kind of got tired of the trope where we see with heroes that we don't know what their family like is at and all that. Like, Spider-Man's not going to be a kid in high school forever. Right. How does Spider-Man handle being Spider-Man as an adult? How does he handle it being a parent? Right. So I was like, also too, I wanted to see stories of like that develop. And then what also started to pique my interest in developing stories when I started deep diving into the world of anime and manga and started like, for example, like My Hero Academia, which has been one of my favorites right now. And I could go even further back, which is like, Berserk, which was just, it was, at that point I was like, oh, you're used to seeing the happy ending of a story, but it's like, no, Berserk ended on a real tragic ending for the anime. I was like, it ends like this, like there isn't anymore, and it's like,
why is it? Why?
But it comes to find out the guy's still publishing the book and all that out there because it takes months and months and months to do it, and I can see why, because his artwork is crazy. So I was like, I don't know, I just started diving more into like, okay, I want to breathe life into these characters that I'm designing. I want to design a new character for someone to like follow, and what is their backstory? How do you build them? What do you get from beginning, middle, and end with the characters? And then speaking with Jeff Marzik, he's the writer for Dead Man's Party. I thank him and Scott because they got me on this creative journey and took the time out to talk to a young kid at New York City Comic Con. I mean, I wasn't young at the time. I was probably in my 30s. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm pushing 39 now. That was like what?
Don't make me feel bad. I'm 48. All right.
Listen, it's very rare that I am the youngest guy in the room. A lot of the times, everyone is younger than me, and I'm like, I'm the old man in the bunch. There we go. That's why I joke with everyone.
It's reversed now. But we all look the same age, so it's okay.
Listen, I think I really do look the oldest here, and Ray is the oldest, right?
I'm the oldest because you have the Papa Smurf beard. That's why
I got the yeah. I'm 45, man. So, and I got to celebrate my birthday with Sebastian.
Oh yeah, that was an awesome episode. Thank you.
I had a great time, man. That was I think that was one of the most in-depth interviews anyone's ever done on me. Thank you.
I tagged you. I thank Tony, the guys. Because that week I was going through a lot of personal matters, and I really wanted to showcase Mike. I really wanted to showcase what he does and what he's done for the community.
He did a lot of stuff, yeah.
And Tony loved talking to you too. He's like, I can't wait to meet the guy in person, and that's one of the things we keep talking about.
And he's the one I got an email, right? I don't have I don't have his email address or connected with him on Facebook. So do like a Facebook introduction if he is, and I can chat with him or whatever.
I got you, Mike. I got you.
All right, thanks, man.
Yeah, let's do it. So, Mike, same question. What is the one thing that gets you to write, like to get up and say, that gives you that, to be compelled, that compels you that
you know what? I just have stories in me. I think that's all it is I grew up in a world of comics and animation and movies and whatever books I could read, and I was always taken to these other worlds. And growing up like I did with medical issues and not being able to play, wrong way, sorry. Not being able to play sports and what, I might just knock this down. You know what? Screw. Oh, that's good right there. I might just knock my green screen down. But anyway, I grew up in these fantasy worlds, and I grew up a little, I guess, on the nervous side. I didn't know what my life was going to be medically, and I just wanted. My reality is being sick, or at least different times. I mean, I grew up kind of normal. I didn't really get sick till I was 18. That's when I experienced stuff.
So you're like the boy in the bubble, kind of like John Travolta.
I kind of feel like, I had all this fear in me, and I didn't know what my future was. So I escaped to all these fantasy worlds, and I developed a love for storytelling, and I developed this just want to kind of be part of that world, be the person. Like, I remember watching an episode of Mr. Rogers where he visited the set of The Incredible Hulk. And I got to see, and I was, how old was I when the Hulk was on? 3, maybe? And I remember watching it and being so scared. Lou Ferrigno coming in and like his arm reaching towards, and I would like hold on to the couch because like in my head, if I'm holding on to the couch, the Hulk can't grab me. And I'm like, but like he went and I saw that it was just this dude in makeup, and he lived in a world of make believe. That's what it was. His neighborhood of make believe on Mr. Rogers is Hollywood.
Right.
It's comic books. And like at 3-4 years, whenever, like that clicked in my head, and I loved the world of make believe. And being in the world of make believe stopped me from thinking about all the other stuff that I have to deal with. Right. So I just kind of wanted to constantly be in this world of make believe. And if I can contribute in comics, awesome, because they're my passion. Mostly because you're just limited to your skill with your pencil and your imagination. But if I get to do it in film of some sort or whatever, I just love telling stories. I love creating make-believe that help people escape from their everyday lives. It's one of the reasons I try not to add politics into my books. One of the reasons I keep them kid-friendly or family-friendly. I want those escapes because, I had great parents, and I still do. They're still around, and but I had great parents who let me live in this world, let me explore, and they encouraged it. They didn't always understand it, but they encouraged it. Right. And that makes sense. So being able to like when I got diagnosed with my medical issue at 8 years old. Before I was 10 years old, they took me to the Cartoon Museum in Port Chester, New York, when it was there, and I got to go see things. And it was the first time I saw comics and how they were made. Like, they really tried to support what I was into, and which was great. But these fantasy worlds, this was something that I just needed to be part of, and I developed stories. Some things inspire me. Like right now, I got a Captain Marvel Shazam on my Cintiq. I was just doodling while I was waiting to get into the green room, and like those type of things, the old school comics, all that stuff just really, really makes me like, wow, this is great, and that's why I want to create.
No, that's awesome.
So thanks.
And both of you guys have like got into the whole podcasting type thing, and video casting. I mean, Sebastian, you're on the Nerds of the Round. What was that like? Like getting into that? Like, what were some of the things that you had to, I guess, learn to get into that? Like transferring from one set of skills, you're doing comics and then comic shows, and then you're going into the video. Like, how was that journey for you?
I had to learn to accept my wife as the director, that she's an editor, because she corrected me a lot. She's an awesome part of the show. Without her, she's she's helped with the editing. But what I've learned was not to take things personal from people, because when the show started, it started as something fun I definitely want to do, because it's something still fun that I do since day. It started with just me. Lawrence Law, which people know on the show, he was one of the first guests. So it was Michael Mayhem. The first episode, which we call the Dark episode, was shot. It was shot in the basement of my friend Steven's house. It was like really dark walls and all. You would think that we were shooting a really bad, I don't know, it was a snuff film or something like that. Something was about to happen. It's just bad. But it started from that episode, and it was from there, taking what I learned from comics and all that, and like how can I apply it to the skill set, and was trying to better it overall. We had moved it from Geeks Unlimited after doing 4 episodes to its own channel, Nerds of the Round. And each episode that we filmed, we used to film it back to back, and it was just me and Jesse working on it and figuring out how we can change it and how we can improve it. The first creator series that we technically was the first creator series we did, which was Tony was the guest host, which Tony is on, is one of the hosts on the show now.
Right.
And so he hosted me and Alex.
Right.
When we came together as a team, was when we did the very first creator series, because I wanted to highlight creators. I wanted to speak to people, like I wanted to tell people story, like Mike's story. We did it on his birthday, and I was like, we gotta do this as a special birthday episode, and I want people to know more about Mike. I want to, learn about his story, and I saw it as also a great networking component, because we're all great creators out there. Some of us don't know each other, and we see the episode like, for example, Catch the Craze hooked up with Lou Seif.
Awesome, yeah.
Sam and George reached out to Lou Seif, who we covered. Lou, I knew from my wife, they went to high school together, and he dropped a great dope rap album, and they got to do an episode together. And I was like, that's just an example of what I wanted to do. It was the same thing with meeting the guys at CACN, Creative Aftercon Network, wanted to get together, help people pursue that. And Nerds of the Round not only became a show that me, Tony, Jesse, and Law wanted to create, where we could talk about fun, geeky stuff, but also to highlight people and what they're doing. From we've had a voice actress on the show, Kaiko, which has been very awesome, and Taco, who did more than just cosplay. She's a voice actress. She's learning business, and it's like a lot of people don't see that. They just see the front image, but then when you take a step back, then it's like being able to help people get the advertisement on their Kickstarters out there and double it as a creator series. Let us know more about you, about the creator who created this stuff and all that. And it just spun off into life on its own from there. And it's just everyone we have fun talking to them, getting to know them before the show, after the show, and just building relationships. I mean, I bother Mike all the time in Facebook Messenger, like, hey, how you doing, bro? But we're just talking about comics and all that.
Yeah. And I'm fine with that. I mean, you even got a guest on my show. It's coming on Tuesday,
Ooh.
And Ari and everybody are coming on Tuesday to talk about the what is it? The why am I blanking on the anthology that they put together?
The anthology.
I'm having so many brain farts over the last couple of days, man.
It's okay, man. It's getting up there.
The months are switching, It's
like I hit 45, and it's like it's just done. You're just done. It doesn't matter anymore what you do.
Well, I think for me it was 28. I was walking down like 3 little stairs, and then my knee went, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's over." It's over.
It was 21 when I was like, my parents were like, you gotta go pay your own bills. I'm like,
Well, you're lucky. You're 21. I got kicked out of my house at 18. I was living on my own since I was a teenager. Then I squirreled my way back for like another year when I turned 20, and then a year after that I had to leave. And they were like, "You got to go." It's like, it's just, you know, you get to a certain age, I don't want to be told what to do anymore. You know, it's just like, I know what I need to do. I got 2 jobs. I don't need to be here. You know, it's like, but back on comics. So when you start doing this stuff, I mean, and you start doing the shows, and you know how hard it is to like get into the shows and get into the swing and make notoriety and for people to be aware of your product. Like, what were some of the strategies that you took as a first-time Comic-Con goer?
Well, I want to know Mike's story. Go, Mike.
Oh, for cons? Oh God. I still think I'm learning. It's you know, it's a hard thing when you do cons and tabling. One of the things that I learned throughout the years is height and color. The higher you put your stuff, like that people can see from far away, that is bright and color, people will come. One of my issues at shows for the last, I'd say, few years is I've been running kids sections, and I love working with the kids and all that. But when you're actually running, and I'm happy to be part of a kids section, but I think I'm gonna pull back a bit on running them, because when I'm running them, I'm not at my table. I'm not there to sell. I'm not there. Well, I mean, I am, but I'm not able to be there to sell. I'm not able to do commissions. It's rare because I'm making sure things are set up. I'm making sure that I'm taking photos and posting on social media, and I'm running the business end. And for me, that not just hurt me financially with my work, but I think that kind of changed what cons were for me. And after a while, I just kind of got unhappy doing shows. But the strategy for me is when I do
keep it upbeat, baby, upbeat. It's like the positive.
Dude, listen, when you're me, you get what you get. You know, as long listen, if you got me on a day where I'm not like, oh, you know,
tell it like it is, because people go out there thinking this is easy. I got my book, I got my table, I'm gonna make $1 million. So it's like it is.
It really is. And you know what? I'm not saying I went out with that exact attitude, but my first con, I was very hyped for. You know, I was like, I'm doing a con. I got my table planned. Like, I literally sat at home and drew out how I want my table. How do I want my advertising? What's like? I sat and thought about it, and I do that almost every con. Now I kind of have this setup that I'm accustomed to that I can use, but I still think, how can I make it better? And when cons come back and I start doing them, I'm going to have different work. And will the work that I have fit into the setup I currently have? Do I need to change for the new work? You know? So, you know, what people need to realize, and you said it's a business. Doing a con, it's fun, especially the after parties, hanging out, going out to dinner with your friends, whatever. But the sitting there and waiting sometimes for someone to come to your table, and I've used this analogy where I feel like I'm like a damn monkey in a zoo. You know, like we're the new attraction. Let's see what this monkey is going to do. Is he going to have something fun? Is he going to be playing, or is he going to be throwing poop at me? You know, like that's kind of like, and I feel like, and you know, with this new, and Ray, you and I talked about it earlier, that it's a new culture. It's like cool to be a geek now, but there's so many people who go to cons, and I feel the cons now, they're not for the fans. It's almost like the new zoo. Like, parents are taking their kids. It's easy to get into.
You don't want to be like this, son. Look at these people, really good. This is not what you want to do in life.
But what I mean is, like, you know, you would go to the zoo, or you take them somewhere, you pay $15 a head to get in, and now they're at the aquarium or whatever, and you spend the day at the aquarium. I feel conventions kind of turn that. You know, I'll see parents, and I do the kids section, and this is one of the things that always makes me feel bad. I'll have a parent looking at my work like, you're really good, thanks. And they'll have like a Superman shirt, and I'm like, oh, you're a fan of Superman? You should check out this. Oh, no, my wife just bought me this shirt. I'm not really a fan of this stuff. Well, why the hell are you here? I understand. You know, I'm here to make money. You know, you're here because you want to see me go. and just be a fucking monkey. And I don't want that. I want, I want the fans out there. I want to see cons get back to that, where it's the fans going.
I had an experience where this young guy was being a ball buster, and he was like, "Let me hear your pitch. Let's hear your pitch." And I gave him the pitch, and he was like, "You got the best pitch of the whole show. Thanks." And he walks away. I was like, but he did that to every table he went to. I was like, what a prick. It's like,
I had a similar experience with a kid that was actually going around pricing people to draw Naruto for him. Mm-hmm. And his dad would come by the table. He's like, stop asking him how much to draw stuff. I'm not paying. I'm not paying for that. He was like trying to get I was like, I commended the kid for being business savvy because, because that's what construction companies do. And people when you're shopping for construction companies, like that kid got a bright future in construction.
Right. He's trying to narrow down the right price. It's like, that guy's giving it to me for 10. How much are you going to give me? So, Sebastian, what is your experience in the cons and when you first started?
I have multiple experiences with cons, good, bad.
I mean, like when you first started, like how was it like getting into it before you found your middle ground,
I mean, I got to approach it from a fan perspective because getting into cons, I found New York City Comic Con to be the first con I went to. And I got really into it as a fan because, again, it's easy to get in cons because you see New York City Comic Con, you get stuck into the rock star life when it comes to that because that's what you think. It's like, I'm going to be this rock star. I'm going to go there. Going to blow up. These people are going to buy a bunch of my prints and it's going to go. And so that reality hits that, you're not going to sell a lot of prints. I mean, I still remember the first table I did was an Beyond Con. And even though I only made $7 at that show, it was the best con I had gone to as a vendor. And only because, again, it's just, keep going to that show every year. I mean, obviously now I ran 2019 and helped put together 2020. It was just the personal experience that I saw. The fact that Eric Hutch approached me in the beginning of the show. Listen, don't think about going out there making money. Just have fun at the show and tell me how many people you network with today and how many relationships you built with. And it was that conversation. And I met George Medina at that show. George was one of the first people to purchase my comic Dead Planet, which like to this day I was like probably worst comics I ever did. But it's whatever, man. It's like you guys finished up perfect. You got to start, and it was I know, but it was an achievement because I finished it. I did it. I went from beginning to end and did it. And I met Rich Dresden there. Rich Dresden. Edwin Huang. I met a lot of people there at that show. To this day, I can still contact and all that. And I was glad it was Beyond Con as my first con because the next two shows I did.
Was that the one at the college? Was that the one at the college?
No. I'll let these shows remain unnamed because they have a rep of their own and people.
I mean, the Beyond one. The Beyond one was the first. Was that the one that was in the college there?
No, they were at the one of the hotels.
So it was after. Oh, got it. Yeah.
So it was at a hotel. I remember having to drive deep out to Long Island for that. It's the first time driving like that deep anywhere, and again, it was a great time. And it was a great experience. I mean, I was up to that's when I first met Law and Tommy. Tommy does our Dungeons and Dragons campaign and podcasts now.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
We were talking about Dungeons and Dragons earlier.
March 9th, Tommy's going to be on my podcast. So
I
believe, didn't we set that up March 9th?
I believe it was March 30th.
I'll look again, but I thought it was March 9th.
Check
March
the
30th.
calendar, Mike.
All right, I'm going to check right now. I got my phone.
That was a flub. Continue, Sebastian.
No, so I mean, me, Tommy, and Law were out, and we closed down the bar and everything. We were still like 2, 3 in the morning talking about creating comics and creating characters, just sitting outside the hotel at 3 in the morning. It's like quiet and no one's out. It's just like dead silence. And we were just talking about creativity and all that. Like I said, it's complete 180 experience from what I had at the next two shows, which were very terrible. The promoter, I was going to do one of their other shows, and I'm glad I dodged the bullet because a lot of people who I knew who did that show, they told them that they didn't have tables and they were sitting outside waiting to get in because they had overbooked the venue because they just wanted to get people's money and all that. Learning about my road and conventions and all, it's like, you have to, again, a lot of people think about the glamour and glitz. Like, no, you're running a business, and it's about making those connections of people who you're going to meet and possibly work with. Because I got caught up with a lot of the fan art stuff too. It's just not saying fan art is bad because it's helped pays for the table.
No, sure.
But yeah, it wasn't. I mean, I got caught up in that, but it's like it wasn't what I signed up to do for conventions. Like I could draw you as many renditions of Spider-Man as you want. I'm going to compete with someone who draws like 50 other renditions of it. But I'm like, I don't want to continue to design Spider-Man. I want to tell my stories. And again, I'm not crapping on anybody who does that because I have a bunch of fan art that I own and love the artist's work and all that. It's just. It's just like, it's not what was sell at one show.
You don't any DC and Marvel. They have enough money to do that.
But the thing is that what sells at one show doesn't sell at another.
Right.
And then you're sitting there figuring out like, what did I do wrong? But it's not that you did wrong. It's just that people are tired of seeing that. It's a different crowd. You got to figure it out. I'm like, and then again, it's like, I did better peddling my own book than I did my own fan art.
There you go. Yeah, I actually had a similar experience too. When I started doing shows back in, when I first started doing Comic Cons, I was 14 actually, and it was with my cousin, and I was living in the Bronx, but I traveled out. I think it was Virginia. I think it was called Crystal City or something. I forgot the name of the con. What was it? It was either in Virginia or. And then, it was in Virginia, and we were selling comic books. We were selling his collection, But then he was like one of these collectors that didn't really want to sell his collection. So I was making deals with his books. He was getting, "What are you doing, man? Why'd you sell that for?" I said, "That's why we're here, right? It's like to sell books." And then David Mazzucchelli was sitting right across from us. It was this one, comic shows were like $2 to get in. It's like, and I said, "Hey, we had all the issues of year one there," and I said. I walked right across from the table to table. I said, "Hey, can you sign these for me?" He signed them. He didn't charge me, right? They didn't charge for signatures. And I said, "Thanks." And I put the books right back on the other side of the table. My cousin's like, "Oh, man, what did you do? This guy just wrote all over the books." I was like, "He's the artist, moron." And he's like, "Yeah, but you just made the books worth less." I was like, "You really don't know what you're doing, do you?" I was like, my cousin was like 18 or 20. So he was "You just made the book worthless." I said, "No, he's the artist. He signed the book. You just increased the value of the book. Now you can sell it more than what you wanted to sell it before." And then flash forward to 2000, I started doing shows in like Baltimore, like Timonium and Baltimore Comic Con and all the small shows in Baltimore. Even though I lived in New York, I never did New York Comic Con or New York Comic Con didn't exist then. It was like another show in New York that was a Madison Square Garden show. There was like and then they had the Roosevelt Hotel, like the Big Apple show. So I did the Big Apple, I think 2004 or 2003 was the first one. I don't know why. I just did all these shows like Wizard and all these other shows outside of New York because I didn't think that New Yorkers would dig my books. But it was weird. But yeah, the same thing with the fan art. I just got rid of it after a while.
Yeah, I hardly touch fan art with my stuff. I always came from the belief I shouldn't be making money off someone else's property. I feel I'm a creator. I have my own characters. I'll do original art and put that up on my table, but I won't do fan art.
Yeah, it's too much.
I had about a year, maybe 2 years of my life doing cons with fan art, and I'm just like, I wasn't into it. I'm just like, I feel like I'm almost like I'm a crook, like I'm a cheat, having this stuff up on the table. And then when I put up my stuff and I really promoted, what I was doing, I kind of started making sales on my own things because I wasn't at one point, all my stuff's always been kid friendly, but I wasn't just doing, oh, here's a superhero picture. I would do a poster of like, oh, it says the early bird gets the worm, and it's like a sheriff that's a bird, and there's a worm in jail or something. It was like little cute things that teachers would buy for their classroom or parents would want to have hung up in the kids' room or something. And so I was doing kind of things like that.
Another thing too is that the pandemic assaulted me with this. A lot of people have found it hard to sell their fan art. Yeah. Which is like, with no cons, they can't, you can't sell the work because you go to sites like Redbubble, T Republic, they're removing you. And it's like, no, this whole thing is almost like, and it's actually encouraged me even more to work more on my personal IPs, to develop them more. And because let's say, you're if you're not doing a con and that's the only place you're making money at, then you're not really running a business, because you have to depend on the shows, and the fact that the shows are not there or have figured out how to run a virtual show, then you're not making money. You're just someone who just did a lot of art that's just sitting there right now. Like, I still have merch that's sitting here of fan art that I'm like, and then I'm seeing this, I'm like, no, let me just focus on all the stuff. And again, like I said, it's nothing against people who do fan art.
Yeah.
Again, it paid for tables. We're in this new age now. I mean, we're doing the con virtually now for Imbion because we want to make it an extensive component of a learning tool, as well as a way of people seeing artists that and creators that you normally wouldn't get to see. Like, for example, you have New York City Comic Con. The only way you could see them is if you attended the show. But now, if you have this as a virtual component, as an extension for these creators, you could see them from like California, Canada, Japan. Doesn't matter. Now you have more exposure. That's how I saw it.
Yeah, I think so. That's very important, I think, because you don't have the shows. If you're only drawing fan art, unless you're selling it on YouTube or if you're posting on Instagram and selling it, I mean, what are you going to do? And I think that's the difference between an artist and an artist who's also a writer. Because some artists can just draw what they see or copy, or even if there's something from their mind, but they're not really telling stories. They need that writer to tell them. And I see that with the older generations too. You don't see a lot of the old school creators that at the cons that are just signing books, really writing stories. They never took that next step. They kind of depended on a writer. But I think because I was a writer first, I didn't want to do Superman anymore. I didn't want to do Batman. I mean, that was when we were like 14, 15, maybe into your early 20s. But you really wanted people to read your stuff, So I think that's super important. That's a very good point. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I wanted to share a quick story about fan art. Now, on the last time we were chatting, we brought up our friend who passed, Dan Necrosis.
Yeah, Dan
Necrosis. Dan, I'm going to tell you right now, he was not a fan of fan art. He didn't like that people did it. Him and I were actually we've talked on and off about doing a show. And the show was only going to allow creators in. And if you had, like, let's say, if you want to call it fan art, but if you had a Spider-Man print there, you had to prove that you worked on Spider-Man.
Right.
You had to prove. And that was something very important to him and something that we were deciding because we wanted to really bring back the old idea of Comic Cons and where they where it was about the art, where it was about stuff. And I'm not anti fan art. I'm anti myself doing it.
Right.
So Dan and I did kind of on occasion disagree because I'm like, you'll bring one, and he goes, nope. If you're in, if you have to prove you worked on that character to be able to have a print of that character there. And I'm like, at the end of the day, it's a good idea, but I don't know. Would it work for art? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Who's going to come in?
What's helped me with recruiting people, because again, like I said, I approach this more as an artist, and then I write a second. Like when I look at fan art now, I try to see what is a person's style, because it's easy for a person to copy a Spider-Man. But if you can take Spider-Man and make him in your own style, I always thought that would stick out to me. Like Edwin Huang, who, he's worked for Street Fighter, Udon Comics and all that, and just the way he draws. And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. But then there's people like Bulletproof Turtle Man, who does fan art pieces, but then he does these original compositions and everything of that he's really great in mashups. And it's like stuff that you wouldn't even think about. It's like, huh. And so he's actually one of the guys now that works with us in terms of the concepts for a lot of the D&D stuff and a lot of the stuff that he's turned out. I was like, dude, this is fantastic. And it's like, like I said, I get the whole thing fan art. I'm not big on it, but a lot of the times, like some artists just don't know. They need like that writer to help point them to the direction and all that. But it's like, yeah, we got to help people start now, and that's why it's like with the Indian cons, like we can help start putting people with their portfolios together. Let's help you build some concepts, and that's the other thing about people because again, I think also too is because there's this. I mean, Mike, you probably agree with this. Too many shows started popping up.
Yeah.
Well, I think COVID really eliminated all the shows, but I think that it actually will be like a quality setter because when shows start coming back, I don't think they're going to be like they were before because people are in a financial bind right now all over the world, and I think when shows start coming up, those people that just did shows just to do shows and didn't really do the advertising or didn't really promote their show properly.
Yeah.
Like we were talking before about doing a show and then nobody's there. Like it's just like
BoroCon.
Yeah, like
BoroCon.
It's like they're. Let's hope that they learn their lesson. They don't come back. It's like
I don't think they will.
No, BoroCon is not coming back. They didn't have their show that final year after. And I don't think the venue leased it to them. I'm not certain. We won't even get into that story because I thought what was wrong was the pricing because again you get a lot of what I call promoters that get into it for the wrong reason. They're like, I'm
snatch and grab show.
I'm gonna make and then because you have a lot of young artists that don't know, or a lot of new artists that don't know how the system works and all that, they'll be the ones to go out there, pay for these tables, pay these crazy amount for tables, and then they get stuck into it. I said because I got caught up in that game. That was me. I was like, I gotta make some more art to sell to pay back my table, and it happens.
Yeah, and you know what? I gave up doing cons for a while because I'm like, I'm not paying for these tables anymore. And then what happened was, I said, you know what? I work with kids. Let me see if I can trade off for a table, do a workshop, or do a panel or something that deals with kid stuff. And they're like, we're always trying to fill kid stuff. So I used to trade off tables for, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting into cons now. I'm doing it for free. But I'm still working, and I have to maybe do a little harder work, and that's how it led into working with friends of mine to do kids sections. And now, just because of the way my art has been going, and I've made changes in my life artistically, and that's why I'm thinking of stopping to run. I'll still be part, but I'm stopping to run kids sections. So.
Yeah, I think the kids section thing that you did was great. I mean, we came from the whole kids Comic-Con
and then Mike Lopez and I got together and we did Incredikids, and we had first it was Comic Clubhouse, which is his thing, and mine is Get in Tune. So it was Get in Tune with Comic Clubhouse, and then we moved it over to Incredikids, and then we started doing our own show, Incredicon. I've basically given that all to Mike. He still uses my logos. I'm still technically part of it, but I let Mike run everything because my focus is somewhere else, and it's on the art. When you're running a show, when you're running kids sections, you really can't be an artist. There's so much work that goes into it. And I know you do Bronx Heroes, but you have other people. When it's just me and Mike, and I have to do certain aspects. He has to do certain aspects. I can't focus on my stuff if I'm doing stuff for other people.
I hear that. And I would run around a lot too. Shows. I would have like my students or some people at the tables or like other artists, Chris, help manage. Or like friends from the block that came through. Like, hey man, can you watch my table? I gotta go get some water for some people. I gotta get the food over here. It's like
it's a hard thing to do. And when you're busy doing that, you're not. And deep, I don't want to say deep down, I'm an artist. I'm a creator. I want to make art, and I want to sell it to the people who want my stories. That's it. And if I'm doing other things, I'm getting distracted. If my focus isn't where it is, where it's supposed to be, I'm not getting my stuff done. And that's what it came down to for me. It's not anything personal with Mike. It's not anything against the cons itself or running kids or kids sections. It's taken me away from what I want to do, which is why I said I'm gonna leave and let Mike run everything. And
Right.
you know, if I really need to be part of something, I will. But it's really Mike's thing now.
Yeah.
You know,
same thing. If I'm at a show, I'm focusing on sales. I'm not really focusing on drawing and or drawing in front of people or taking a commission. And
yeah,
a lot of people make a lot of money on commissions, but and I started out that way. Like I'd be drawing. Yeah, I'm going to draw this. This person told me to draw this or draw that. And honestly, I don't really care about drawing in commissions. I really don't care. I just want to sell books. I just want people to read my stories. I just want people to be engaged and get feedback from what I do. And I don't, you know, I did the blank cover thing for a bit, and I was like, this is stupid. It's like,
I got,
it's like
honestly, I got tons of blank covers I'm trying to get rid of.
You know,
Me too. I know that pain.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of them that just sitting there, and I was like, I plan to do all this stuff with them, and then it's like now it's like, no.
Right. I sold more on eBay than I ever did at a show. So it's like the blank cover thing or the sketch card thing, all these little gimmicks that come up, which I mean, they're good. People buy them, but I remember one guy at New York Special Edition, which was like the New York Comic Con people, did a show at the Harbor. And it was a good show, but they cramped everybody in there like we were like slaves, you know. Like I used to call the artist alley the slave quarters because they just rammed you in there and you're like this and somebody else, you're like shoulder to shoulder, and you're at the table and it's just like, and then there's someone behind your banner and they're pushing the banner. It's like there's no space. And then this guy was haggling over a cover that I did of the Black Superman. And I was like, he's like, how much is that? I was like, $30. He was like, that's too much. He says, I'll give you 10. I was like, go away. I don't need your money. And he would come back like 4 or 5 times. I was like, I'm not going to haggle with you. This is the price. You don't want to pay for it, then please leave. You know, you're taking up space. You know,
it's hard when I had someone come up, and I was selling some T-shirts at the time based on a comic I had, and this character, this guy would come up and always look at the shirts, and let's say they were $10. I don't remember the price I was selling them for. And he kept looking at him, and I kept saying they're $10. And I was with my girlfriend at the time, and luckily she was with me. He kept coming over and asking the price, and we're like, "Sir, we've already told you they're $10."
Right.
And eventually he came and tried to take one. He just liked the shirt. He liked the design. He was trying to steal one, and I'm like, I made sure I told the people around us to watch out. This guy is trying to steal. We weren't. But there are a lot of people out there that will be like, oh, that's really good. Oh, well, if you wanted it, well, I have this little, I shouldn't really say it, but I do this little thing. Like, let's say I want $30 for a drawing, right? I'll be like, oh, you know what? I'm selling it for 40, but for you today, I'm going to give it to you for 30. And then this way I'm trying to make a little deal. And that usually works. But then when they say, oh, I'll give you 20, I'm like, no, I can't do 20. Sorry.
What's your strangest experience, guys? Like, what was your strangest experience at a con?
Okay.
What a weirdos at the cons. So let's hear these stories.
I got one. Well, I got 2 stories. One, I don't know if I can say on air. But
this is not a PG show. He's just
okay. All right. And I'm not usually one to curse.
Sebastian's like, oh no, am I gonna say it? He has a kid.
Did I tell you the story, Sebastian?
You might have. You've told me a few. We've gone back and forth.
It's a story that takes place in a bathroom.
I
think you did.
This
was Mike Carbo there, or what?
No. Oh, my cat woke up. I may have to move in a moment to feed him. But this is the weirdest thing. So it's a good hour, maybe hour and a half before the show opens, and I have to go to the bathroom. So I'm standing in there. I walk in, and someone's in the stall. I'm like, crap. I have to use the stall. Let's just put it that way. And I'm like, crap, someone's in there. And all of a sudden, this other guy comes in behind me. And I'm like, he's like, it's full. I'm like, yeah. Oh, by the way, as I'm walking out, I literally bump into the Red Ranger walking out, the original Red Ranger walking out. So first of all, that was a weird experience. I'm like, holy, But then I'm standing in line. All of a sudden, there's this large guy. He's like 6'4", like really wide. And he's like, "You guys, someone saw." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I don't need to use the bathroom. I just got to change into my costume. Do you mind if I change?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So I'm standing there online. I'm first. There's another guy behind me. This big, huge guy walks in, and I'm not looking, but he's getting on like his leotard or whatever it is, and he walks over to me and this guy, and he's like, "Hey, can one of you zip me up?" And we look at each other, and the guy's like, "Well, you're closer," and I'm like, "Fuck," So I'm polite. He gets dressed and he gets out. Then the guy behind me comes in.
It's like, hey,
then the guy behind me looks, and he was like, "Oh, I just need the stall. I'm gonna just use the stall. Not the stall. I just need the urinal. I'm gonna use the urinal." And he walks out. He does what he has to do. He walks out. As I'm waiting, still for the stall, and this guy is like, "Dude, I hear people out there waiting. It's gonna be a fucking forever, dude. I'm taking a major shit here." I'm like, "Oh my god." I'm like, I can't move to another. Like, it's like that
sweating. The sweat's coming down.
Who comes in behind me? Ric Flair. All right.
He's like, "I'm gonna take a shit. Get out of the way."
So Ric Flair cuts in front of me and like knocks on the door. He's like, "Hey, there's people out here waiting." And the guy's like, "I'm fucking doing what I'm gonna do." And I'm just like, holy cow. And finally,
only one stall. Only one.
Just one stall in this one. So
God.
So finally,
you really want to go in there after?
But I was at the point where I really couldn't walk to find another bathroom. That's how bad it was for me.
You just take a comic book bag and just.
And so, all of a sudden, the door opens. I'm not going to say it was another wrestler. I won't say who it was. And he was like, and he sees Rick. He's like, "Oh shit! If I knew it was Rick, I would have taken another 10, 15 minutes." And I'm like, Rick's about to walk in, and I'm like, "Dude, sorry to interrupt, but I've been here. I really have to go." And he turns to me and he's like, "I just had surgery. I have to change my bag." Like he had that little. I'm like, "Oh fuck!" And
you don't say, "I got."
I'm like, I understand. I can't be rude. This guy, he just had surgery. He needs to change. I understand what that's like. I said, "Okay, please be as quick as you can." And and as he's closing the door, he's like, "Thank you," and he gives me his woo type of thing, and I'm like,
You didn't like sit on the sink and just
No, but luckily he was quick, and he was like, "It's all yours." I'm like, "Oh, thank God!" I just ran. It was, it's one of those things where it could be like a photo finish type of moment, and you're just.
You can't make that up,
dude. I mean, I've had others, but that is just one of those that it's just like so surreal. I bump into the Red Ranger. Some giant dude asks me to zip him up. I'm waiting, and then Ric Flair cuts me.
He cuts him
like,
"Get out of the way."
I'm like, holy shit, dude. And I'm literally, I was almost ready to kick the door in. It was like. But it's luckily that might have been my most, I mean, I've had things where like I got to share an elevator with Warwick Davis and his family, and I'm like, that's kind of cool, I'm like, I'm a big fan. He's like, "Thank you," just a very polite guy, very nice guy. I've had like surreal experiences like that, right. But that story, the bathroom story, is the only one I think will top it all. I'm like, that's a story to last a lifetime.
Yeah, I think when you told that story, like you went them all. I mean, who can say that? They have Ric Flair come off at the song, give them a woo.
I'm not gonna even tell my story now after that.
I'm sorry, I should have gone last. Would you rather have me told the story about how almost every show a woman comes up to me and says something like, "My nephew or my son draws just like you," but he's like 9. And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." And I tell them all the time, I go, "They must be really fantastic artists." Because what am I supposed to say? "Oh, thank you. I spent all my life, 45 years of my life, to learn to draw like a 9-year-old." Like,
we'll call you Basquiat. Go ahead, Sebastian. What's yours? What's your strangest?
It's like they're not really strange moments. They're just really like random, weird moments. Like, you got your neighbor next to you at a con, and then they have like really bad gas, and it's like you got to let eye-to-eye contact with the customer when that smell comes out, and try to tell them that wasn't you. It was not you that let that out. I mean, this was really bad. Like, you have people behind us like, yo, something smelled like they died. The other one for me was when Darth Vader almost got into a bar fight. And I was on Darth Vader's side too, because, like, you know, you get pushy fans or trying. He goes, "I'll take a picture. I'm not going to do an autograph." And it's like, he's like, "No, I want an autograph. I want an autograph." Mind you, this guy, and this is the guy who played Darth Vader in the Rogue One movie.
Yeah, the first movie.
And
he was a bodybuilder, wasn't he?
He was a kickboxer.
A kickboxer, okay.
And he was close to 7 feet tall.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
This guy who was trying to fight with him was nowhere close to 7 feet tall.
Right.
So let's just say it was. Yeah, it was
David Prowse.
Yeah.
First Darth Vader, yeah.
But he's cool dude. And it was funny too. He goes, "I like your wife's hair. It's very pretty, her hair." And like,
that's cool.
So it's pretty funny. Then a buddy of mine is like, "Oh, he's hitting on your wife because, you know, he liked him like that." I was like, "You know what? Shut up. But he came up to us, apologized. He's like, "I know I was being crazy today. I'm sorry. Let's have some drinks at the bar." And all that. It was pretty cool. It was a cool night. But it was just funny, like, all that. It was just surreal that some of that was happening. That was a fun convention experience.
I had a fun one years ago at New York Comic Con where I was with Baron Ambrosia, who had the Bronx Flavor show. I did a comic adaptation of his book. And, you know, this is like before Comic Con really started exploding. Like, it wasn't like a madhouse yet. It was getting there. It was like 2011. So it kind of was, but it wasn't at that madhouse level where people were walking and you can't get anywhere. So we were like, you know, because it's such a huge place, I had to shout, like, you know, like screaming, "Bronx heroes coming at you!" I mean, yell, like, people were like, "Could you stop that, please?" It's like, so we would get people and say, "Hey, we have free comics over here." Then we had a massive rush of people, like 11 people came to the table, like, "Free comics? Where's the free comics?" I was like, "Oh yeah, you can have a free book as long as you eat this habanero pepper. We have habaneros, we have ghost peppers, we have all these different peppers. If you can eat one without drinking anything, you know, you will have this new comic book for free." And the book was going for like $8 or $9. I think the first 2 days was $11, and then Saturday and Sunday we dropped it to $8. So we had 75 people try to eat these peppers, and I got it somewhere on videotape. We filmed some of these people, but the faces, the expressions. One guy barfed into his comic book bag.
Oh.
His comics.
Trying to murder people. Come on.
The things that people would do for a free comic book, it was pretty hilarious, you know, because, you know, he was like a celebrity, you know, and he still is. I mean, he has a show now on the Science Channel called Unexplored, Unexplained. But he was still doing the food thing back then. And, you know, we even had a couple that made out while eating the pepper. And the girl was handling it no problem, but the guy looked like he wanted to, like, lose his lunch. He was like,
You were doing hot ones before it was a show.
But it really taught me something. It taught me, like, wow, people, like, you know, you give them an incentive, then they'll come. I mean, I tried everything from shows, from throwing T-shirts that didn't sell at previous shows. I would throw them in the crowd, get people to come to the table. You know, like white T-shirts just don't sell. You know. Yeah. No matter if it's 3-color or 1 color, they just don't sell. People don't want white T-shirts anymore. It used to be a thing in the 90s, but now, you know, people don't like.
Well, you think about it. You sell a white T-shirt at a con, and then you're eating food, and all of a sudden your shirt. White T-shirts just have a very bad rap with stains and all that.
They do. It's true.
Also, you got to remember, and this is not negative to anyone out there because I'm one of these people, but most of us aren't super thin. White is not a flattering color on us.
Red also makes you look big too, though.
Thank you. I'm on my red shirt right now.
I'm just telling you, color.
Dude, let me tell you, red, blue, orange, doesn't matter what color I'm wearing.
Try black. Black works.
I do. I wear a lot of black, and not because it's thinning. It's just I don't like bright colors on me.
Yeah,
I thought it'd be nice today. Wear a little red, break out this nice shirt I got going on here. It always reminds me of like the old
I mean, look at this green screen. I got this thing turns into brick here. You know, it's like
this reminds me of the old Sierra video.
My green screen shirt here. You know, it's like.
Oh, Zoom.
I'm the thing. Now I always want to be the thing. Now I'm the thing. Last question before we wrap up. Where can we find your stuff? What websites are you on? What's your social media handles? And whatever else you want to say.
You can find me at Sabastian Bonet Art on Instagram. You can find me at The Nerds Around on YouTube, Facebook. You could, yeah, we're on Twitch now. We are on Twitch. Oh, shit.
Yeah, we're on Twitch right now, too. We're on Twitch as well. We're on Facebook.
You can also find us on Spotify, Anchor, Nerds Around.
Nice.
Got a comic coming out soon, so that will be dropping.
So you guys do an audio feed as well, like an audio podcast as well as the video. You do both.
We're doing both. Like our extensive interviews, we're gonna upload mics onto Spotify. What we did with Mike and everything, so this way people can also hear it too and all that uncut, just like how we did on the live show. Got you, brother.
Thanks.
Yeah, so got a pilot comic coming out that you'll see soon, because again we're diving deeper into the webcomic realm since, you know, shows and all that. And it's also less coverage of an overhead, so I don't have to worry about finding a printer, because I know that's always a pain in the ass. We all know that whole story about trying to find a printer that works with you.
I'll just say it. Stay away from Kablam.
Kablam produced my. Kablam was my first.
15 years. I used them for 15 years, but honestly,
I only think they're good because of Indie Planet. They print Indie Planet's work. Just put your work up on Indie Planet, let Kablam print them. Don't buy a crap ton of books to sell at a show from Kablam. There are lots of other great
Mixem is very good. Mixem is a good platform. They're a British company. They have a factory plant in Chicago, and they called me from England just to ask me about my specs and say, hey, we see that you got a book up here, and they called me like a long distance call. I mean, they were very professional. You can see your as you're uploading your pages, you see how the layout's going to be on the book. Kablam is the only printer I ever dealt with. I used to work in printing as a teenager, so I worked in print shops. I worked in the city for the city making blueprints and stuff. They're the only printer that I ever worked at that doesn't give you a proof when you're doing a book or something. And that's ridiculous, you know? So, and also digital age, it doesn't cost you anything to send to someone a JPEG or a PDF of your finished product to produce. So like, Comics Daddy is really good. Those guys are really, they even delivered to my job one time because I couldn't make it out there. They drove to me. Comics Daddy.
That's a good printer when they do that.
How many printers will do that?
Not many.
And not even charge you. Like they're like, here, we got your books. Like I was at work at school. It was snowing, and the guy at Comics Daddy, Dan Hort, literally drove up to my school where I was working and dropped the books into my car. I mean, how awesome is that? I mean,
that's fantastic. I don't know anyone who would do that.
You're right. So I mean, there's a lot of good printers out there. It's the small, like mom and pop shop type of printers that are out there to really help you to be successful, not to charge you like a express fee to say, like charge you triple the price of the book because you need it at a certain date when it only takes 2 minutes to print a book. Like if you understand how a printing press works, 25 books or 50 books or 100 books takes less than a minute to actually run through a printer.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
That's why you make friends in printing too.
At an earlier date,
Also, too, I was gonna say, I have something here, if it's okay to share.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm part of the Medusa's Cascade podcast, which comes out every Saturday.
Awesome.
The Medusa's Cascade podcast, and here's some artwork for it.
Look at that. That's cool.
Nice.
That is got a Lorio. She is the Forest Elf Indie podcast, played by Larice. We have me here, Kyver, who is a Tabaxi rogue. So again, these are sketches that are some designs for the characters you'll see on the website at inbeyond.com. And this is Tony's character, which is a Titan Paladin. So we're doing a lot of artwork for it. So this was just my takes on the characters and all that. So you can catch the podcast on Spotify. It's called The Medusa's Cascade. It's a D&D podcast. 12 episodes are out already. And we launched also to Collateral Recap, hosted by Alexander Sapunzis, who actually talks to various cast members in different episodes about their creation and everything, and about the episodes as a recap and all that.
Wow. And how long are the games, the audio of the games?
Well, Tommy, he's been cutting them, so they've been cut. I think he's been cutting it down to an hour for the audio. He's done some cool stuff with the battles, where you listen to the battles. Now he's narrating them in later episodes.
Okay.
So they're pretty cool. And he has a lot of great audio work that he does. And there's a lot more D&D stuff that we have coming. Because of the podcast itself, we started it February of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And we just started releasing a lot of the 12 episodes now, and we've been filming, doing a lot of stuff in the background.
That's great.
So there's more stuff coming up in the months to come.
That's great.
Awesome. And Micheal, where can we find your stuff again?
Well, at Micheal Grassia. So anywhere you see my name,
your blue screen's not on right now. Your green.
Yeah, no, I had to take it down. It was making me blurry for some reason. And I'm not Jay Garrick. I don't need to blur my face. So
I like your yellow background too. It kind of matches my red background. So it's nice complimenting.
Thank you. Yeah. So even yellow, that makes me look large too. So no, but it's. But no, it's at Micheal Grassia. You can find me on every social media: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. That way. Getintune.net, which is TOON, is my Facebook page, and also my educational website where you can watch all my videos on, as well as finding them on YouTube, which is at Micheal Grassia, and my website, michealgrassia.com, which is more my business website for my art. So you can find that. You can learn about the children's book I have coming out very soon. It's called Oodles a Doodles, about a monkey who likes to doodle.
Cool. Oodles and doodles.
Oodles and doodles.
Very cool. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for coming on, guys. Really appreciate it. Stick around before we tune out. So we're getting off the broadcast, but stick around, guys. Everyone, thanks again. This is Bronx Heroes Comic-Con Live. And we'll see you back again for Women's History Month, where we'll be featuring some of the creative talents of the Women in Comics organization. Take care.